Exciting news this week. I got a new desk. You can't see it, but I can, and it looks fantastic. And as part of getting that new desk, I cleaned all the rest of the stuff off of my desk and started cleaning out my office. And as I was doing that, I realized I have so many planners. It was hilarious to look back through all these planners and see all the different tactics that I've tried to use and decided that that wasn't it and I just needed a new planner. So it made me think I would love to go through today and talk to you about planning in a physical productivity style. Based on what your type is, you can know exactly how you should plan. And I have learned this about myself through lots of trial and error that certain ways of planning do not work for me, and other ways of planning are absolutely a fit. And it all is based on the inherent blueprint that my body already has. This is where the physical productivity piece comes into play. Before I get too far into this, quick hello. My name is Deibert. I'm a performance coach. I help high achievers get out of their own way. I created a methodology called Work Like You Work Out, and it looks at how you physically like to expend energy, and we use that as a map for how you mentally like to expend energy. I find that when people follow this map, their productivity comes so much more easily because they're working in a way that works with their energy and works with the way that they are. And this isn't a map that is frozen and stuck all throughout time. This is something that adapts as your energy fluctuates and as you're in different seasons of life. So, before we get started, if you want to go to my website, you can take the quiz. It's literally 3 clicks, drop your email, it will give you the full results. And there are 6 different types. So that might be helpful to take the quiz so that you know what your type is, because in this episode, I'm going to go through all 6 types and tell you how to plan if you are one of those 6 types. So it might be helpful to know what your type is before you go through this, but if not, you can go check it out. The quiz is at mentalmastery.com/quiz. Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk about the first type. The first type is what I call the marathoner. These are the people who like to go long. You may not run marathons, but you're more of an endurance athlete. Maybe you like long walks, maybe you like long bike rides. But when I think about this person, it's kind of a low intensity, long duration type of a person. That's how you prefer to let your energy out. So the best planning method for this type of person is lots of upfront planning. This is the only group that needs a lot of upfront planning. If you think about, I used to do 100-mile bike rides. If you think about going for a 100-mile bike ride, you need to know where you're going, what you're going to eat, where you're going to stop. What do you do if you get a flat tire? Where do you put your jacket once it gets too hot? Where do you refill your water bottle? You have to do all the upfront planning. And once you've done all that upfront planning, then you can just execute on the work. The execution looks like a lot of deep work with less distractions, which we talked about in the last episode. But having all those decisions made up front and knowing the entire plan helps you when you're executing, because then you really can get in that low intensity, long duration energy expenditure. Okay, let's go to group number 2. Group number 2 is the sprinter. These are the people who like to go fast, go hard. They're short burst kind of people. This is more of the high intensity, short burst. For these people, upfront planning is not as necessary. I gotta be honest. You might walk into the CrossFit gym and you look at the entire board to see what the workout is, but you don't need to know every single piece of it. You only need to know the first piece. So if you're more of a high intensity, short burst type of athlete, your planning should look more like a very short list. You really only need to know what's next and get that done and then move to the next thing. This group does really well when they have sets and reps. You have a burst, then you break. Then you have a burst, then you break. Then you have a burst, then you break. This group needs breaks. So please give yourself a break if you fall in this category. You need to give yourself rest, and that's what allows you to work for longer. You can't just burn yourself out. Think about high intensity interval training. You can do anything for 30 seconds, but only if you give yourself that rest afterwards. So the idea for planning for this group is have a short list. Know what you're going to do next. Take a break. During that break, you can figure out the next piece. Do that. Take a break, then you can figure out the next piece. You don't need to have the entire plan. You just need to know what the next thing is. For this group, I highly recommend having out a Post-it note. This is the most expensive tactics I will ever use. Just kidding. So what is a Post-it note? It's like $4, $3. Get out a Post-it note and write the 3 things that you need to do. If you have that one Post-it note, it's going to help you so much in just having a short little plan. Okay, group number 3 is our powerlifters. These are the people who like to lift heavy. They like to do the strength training. They're kind of more of a lifting weights in the gym type of a person, not necessarily cardio at all. All right, so planning for this group is actually very different. You don't necessarily need a daily plan. You don't even necessarily need a weekly plan. You might have a quarterly plan. When I think about powerlifters, I think about people who have themes for each day. Maybe Monday is arms, Tuesday is back, Wednesday is legs, whatever it is. They tend to have themes, or maybe they're doing full body workouts every day, but they have kind of a plan and a reason behind all of it, and it's all worked out. When you're thinking about this kind of a plan, generally speaking, these people do best when they have an overall picture. I know what the end destination is, and I kind of have blocks where I take care of each of these pieces. So what it can look like for some people is Monday becomes internal meetings, Tuesday becomes outreach, Wednesday becomes follow-up, Thursday becomes learning, Friday becomes networking. Maybe you have a theme for each day, or maybe you have different blocks. Maybe it's like in the afternoon, these are the different things you're focused on. But I find that these people do really well when they look at the entire picture, and they might plan a month at a time, or they might plan an entire week at a time. They don't necessarily need to know the nitpicky details of every day, but they need to know that everything, like back, arms, legs, everything has a spot. And maybe every day you do a little bit of core, or maybe every day you do a little bit of cardio. But you need to know that everything is scheduled so that over the course of a period of time, all of those different pieces will be covered. So you may just plan out an entire quarter. These are the people who do really well with something like the 12-week year, where you really do plan 12 weeks at one time. You don't necessarily have a plan every single morning. You can kind of see the entire picture and make a plan for the whole thing. And then every day you just show up and follow that plan. Okay, we're on to group number 4. These are our team players. These are the people who like to move with other people. Maybe you like to do group classes. Maybe you show up for pickup basketball. Maybe you play on a soccer team. Maybe you play pickleball. But whenever you're exercising, you exercise best when you're with other people. The planning mode that I recommend most for these people is that they generally just show up and do what the other people tell them to do. Like if you think about if you're on a soccer team or pick up basketball, you're kind of just following someone else's plan. So if you fall in this group, it may be really helpful for you to find somebody else's plan for you to follow. Maybe you don't need to determine your own plan. Maybe you don't need to come up with it yourself. Maybe you just need to find somebody who you trust, who's an expert, who says that this is the makeup of what your sales day should be, and you follow that person and you follow their plan. You just need a trusted advisor who can give you the whole picture, and then you follow it and you do great. This is the people who trust the process. Show up and do what they tell you to do, and it's all going to work out. Okay, group number 5 is our solo ace. These are the people who prefer to work out just by themselves. They don't want anybody else around. This is my time. Why would I have anybody else around? For these people, I find that the alternate is true compared to what we talked about with our team players. For these people, they tend to be a lot more skeptical of what other people say. They want their own plan. Why would I follow what somebody else says? And so for these people, you can try planning in getting ideas from different people. Maybe you do some research and you find out kind of what all the people are saying, but then you make your own plan. You decide for yourself what it is that you want to do. But it might be helpful to have influence and ideas and kind of look at the buffet of options and then decide what you like. And this is your thing. Okay, and then lastly, we have our cross trainers. These are the people who are kind of a mix of all of these. So I don't know which one I am. I'm kind of this. Sometimes I like to do long endurance. Other times I like to do fast bursts. Sometimes I like to work out by myself. Sometimes I like to work out with somebody else. They're kind of all over the place. And I don't know which one I am because I'm kind of a little bit of all of those. This is the key. You're somebody who needs variety. You don't fit in a box. You don't fit in a rigid structure. You are somebody who needs to have freedom and flexibility and variety. But I'm going to guess that you also do well when you have routine and structure, which those two things feel really inconsistent with each other. So how do you plan? How do you plan for having flexibility and also structure and routine and also being able to have variety in your day? So for these people, I recommend that you make sure to plan variety. You're not going to do well like a power lifter having a theme for every single day. That's going to feel too rigid and too structured for you. And so instead, it might be really helpful for you to have variety in your week. And maybe that looks like having different ideas. Like the mornings, I focus on getting the most important things done. And then the afternoons, I have all my calls. So maybe you have some structure in that regard where you have different half days planned out of, it's not all day Tuesday that I'm doing outreach, but it's 2 hours in the morning that I know that I do my outreach on Tuesdays. And then the afternoon can be whatever it needs to be. Something else that I find is really helpful for this group is that if you have a set amount of time, so maybe you call it buffer time or admin time, or I hate both of those words, so I call it clearing the list or closing the loops time, but you have some time set aside to get rid of the most important things. It's really helpful to have the structure of those 2 hours a day where you're most alert, most focused, you're focusing on your circadian rhythms. You have those 2 hours a day that are defined for you. But then within those 2 hours, you allow yourself the flexibility to work on what you want to work on because you need to be able to feel like you have the freedom and the variety to be able to work on it. So you have your entire list of the 8 things that need to get done during those 2 hours, and you get to pick which one you start with. You give yourself the variety versus being, well, it has to be this one because this one's the hardest thing. No, maybe start with the easiest thing, get your momentum going, and it's going to be so much easier for you. Okay, just to reiterate, if you want to figure out what your type is and get specific advice for your type, go to my website, mentalmastery.com/quiz. You can take the quiz. Literally, you click 3 buttons, drop your email, and it's done. It takes less than 90 seconds to complete. And it will give you a printout of exactly what works for you. And then I'll send you a series of emails to go deeper into your type and exactly what you need. Go check it out. And I can't wait to tell you more about physical productivity. I'll see you in the next video.